We're live. What's up, guys? What is up? Welcome back to Deck Talk Podcast. We have a great episode for you tonight. If you don't know, I am Colin Burnett.
Yeah, man, that's right, Colin. And I am Norman Lee. You know what? Tonight's episode is brought to you by Proline Baits, family owned and operated. They strive to produce the highest quality scents using the finest quality ingredients to guarantee anglers to catch more fish, whether you're in a boat fishing from the bank. Now, when you match the hatch, you can match the scent, covering a wide range of species. Proline baits produce the highest quality attractants using all natural extracts designed with the most advanced technology and scent capabilities, not only releasing a full and robust scent, but delivering an unmatched taste to any fish. Proline Baits, a new generation of attractants for the avid fisherman to help you catch more fish. See what this thing is about. Make sure go to www.prolinebaits.com. Again, that's www.prolinebaits.com. Don't forget, make sure to use that discount code DECKTALK10. Again, that's discount code DECKTALK10.
That's right, guys. Make sure you go use that discount code. But let's get on with the show. We've got a great episode coming up, and a guy that Norman and I've been looking forward to having on here. We usually will have like a pro fisherman or somebody that's fishing the different series and stuff on here, but we're going to swing it around a little bit. Let's talk about some fish management. But tonight we've got Tony Gergely from Shore Life Laboratories. Tony, welcome aboard, man. Thank you.
What's going on, Tony?
Hey, man, I appreciate you calling me up and asking me to do this, man. It's an honor. Thank you.
Man, I mean, we love to be able to talk to people and talk about fish management, and because we care about our lakes and stuff around here, lakes, creeks, rivers, and there's nobody else that we could talk to that we knew that we could holler at and get you to come on and to be able to talk about taking care of the fish and taking care of them properly. So we wanted to have you on here so we can kind of chit chat about how to better for our anglers that's around here and around the world. I mean, we have them from the other day, last week, we had Puerto Rico, people from Puerto Rico out in England and stuff watching. And all over the world, we got people watching live. But we wanted to have you come on here to kind of help us to be able to illustrate how important it is to take care of fish. And so Norma and I, we use your product, and we know that your product works, and so we wanted you to come on and talk about it a little bit.
Okay.
So can you tell us what is Shore Life?
What Shore Life is the alternative to what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a doctor, and that's the reason like I was told you earlier, when I was in high school in Florida, I grew up in DeLand, a DeLand bulldog over by Daytona Beach, and fished the St. Johns River 4 times every week with my dad. But anyway, I took anatomy and I took Latin in high school and so forth. I graduated 4.0 honors. And ended up going to the University of Florida with the intentions of being a doctor. And I majored in microbiology, which is one of the larger, harder subjects to take. And I did that intentionally because I wanted to be a doctor.
Right.
Thank God I'm not a doctor. I didn't know that God had another plan for me. Let's just put it to you that way. I mean, God really had another plan for me. And I'm a big believer. And I thank him every day that I do what I do. And I have a lot of doctor friends, man, but They really don't have a life. At least I've got a life, okay?
Right.
But the thing is that when I mentioned that St. John's River thing was my dad didn't even know how to back a trailer up. So I'm a kid backing a trailer up with no driver's license, okay? And we're fishing Lake Monroe, all around DeBerry and DeLand and Osteen and so forth, and Lemon Bluff. And I ran the trolling motor, I ran the big motor, and if you've ever been on the St. John's River, you can get down there past toward Lemon Bluff, and it splinters, and you think that's the river, but that's not the river. You end up about this much water. My dad would just look at me like, but I learned it. So we fished the tournaments though, and that's when Ray Scott came out with the idea of, hey, let's do the catch and release deal. Let's not keep these things on the stringers anymore like they used to when they first started Bassmasters. And so everybody imitated it. The tournaments were patterned to go, has to do catch and release, but the boats were not built to handle that type of biodensity in a bass boat. But the boat my dad had was called a Hearst. It was built in Orlando, and you're allowed 10 fish per person. So we have 20 fish in the live well, and you're trying to do everything you can to keep them alive, and they were all dying still. And it just really, really frustrates me. So when I got off to college, I joined the Bassmasters of Gator Country because I wanted to fish. I didn't have a boat, but I could get around on a 10-speed. But the meeting was quite a distance from the University of Florida campus, so I took a city bus. And the first person I met there, this guy, he and I became instant friends. And he said, "How'd you get over?" I said, "By bus." He said, "Hey, man, I'll give you a ride home." So he did. So we started fishing together. He'd pick me up and take me and everything. He's about, I don't know, 6, 7 years older than me. Really nice guy. We're still best friends to this date, and that's Shaw Grigsby of all people.
Oh, man.
He becomes a pro, and I end up doing what I'm doing. And trust me, he's always got my product in his boat, and he doesn't have to pay for it because we're just that good of friends. And then what happened after that, I started working with an aquarium company that was making products like guppies and, goldfish and stuff like that. Those are easy to keep alive, but theoretically, in an aquarium, you can only keep 1 inch of fish per 1 gallon of water. Theoretically, if saltwater, freshwater, and you got to do a 10% water change every week. You've got to maintain these things, but you just can't put a lot of fish in it. Well, a bait tank or a live well, for instance, but if you go to a bait shop with a bait tank, they're going to have 15 to 25 pounds of bait and 100 gallons of water. Think about it.
Yeah.
It's totally different. So that's why I decided back way over 30-something years ago. But the intention of finding out how to keep bass alive, but it then also went into the bait division, if you see where I'm going with this. Because people are asking me questions like, "Hey, man, do you think you can figure out how to do this?" Well, I'm working on the catch and release formula, which is and I have a trademark, by the way. I was still having some difficulty, so I ended up meeting another idol of mine. Actually, Shaw wasn't an idol yet, but this guy was already my idol because I was reading all his books and all his articles and magazines. And every time he was on TV, I was watching him and so forth. And that would be Doug Hannon, the bass professor.
Yeah.
And we ended up being best friends from April of 1983 until he passed away in April on Good Friday of 2013. And it really broke my heart because we talked every day. But he was instrumental in one thing. When I talked to him down at Lake Tarbin, and explaining how frustrated it was, why I wasn't being 100% successful. I was getting some good results, but not the entire results I needed. And he's the one that said, "Tony, you need to tranquilize them." And sort of like taking a wild deer, a buck deer, and putting it in a deer trailer, it's going to kill itself trying to get out. The same thing with a bass. It's going to try to kill itself to get out of a live well. That's why they die, from stress. And then you put, 10 other fish in there, or 5 other fish in there that they don't want to be around, by the way. Not schooling or anything. It's like, what are you doing in my space? And but I've discovered how to calm them down and tranquilize them. And that's products used on shiners and everything. They use that product to hauling fish. Like the majority of the bait fish in the United States that you buy for crappie fish and so forth, it's raised in Arkansas, over there between Little Rock and Memphis. Those are massive bait farms over there. They haul those fish around on trucks to get them to a distributor. That distributor breaks it down and goes to a bait shop. Then the bait shop sells about a dozen. They use my tranquilizer, which I just make that in pure form too, by the way, to calm the bait fish down so they can haul more fish per smaller volume of water. So that was, when you ask me what Sure Life is, Sure Life is a result of people asking me questions and telling me they got problems. But the first problem I had was me keeping bass alive. That's what got me interested. And then people call up and say, "Hey, my fish are doing this, my fish are doing that." Now I can do it on the phone like a doctor. I've done it on New Year's Day when I've been in the office, and they'll call up and say, "Hey, I didn't expect you to answer the phone." What I do, and they go, "Hey, my bait are doing this," or you know what, it's saltwater and freshwater, by the way. And I can tell by what they're doing, they need to do to correct it, and that's how I come up with all these new products we've got.
Right. And
And
that's
that's what we do. That's what we do. That's all we do.
well, in a sense, you didn't live your dream of wanting to become a doctor. You're just not a doctor for
I'm
humans.
living a better dream.
Right. So, but yeah. So, when uh, when did you start? Uh, you started in the '80s, though,
Yes.
correct?
Yeah.
And but Shore Life Laboratories did not start until what, 91, 92, something like that.
June of '91.
So
I stayed with the company making these formulations for tropical fish.
right,
But that's not really where my heart was into it. I traveled a lot. It was a great opportunity because I was the one inventing the products for the tropical fish, which meant that I was going to their trade shows in that industry as opposed to ICAST. Two, they would bring in they would go, okay, for instance, a good one, we'd go to Pine Bluff, Arkansas. They would send me to Pine Bluff, Arkansas. They'd give me an American Express card, give me an airline ticket, and they would go get like a Holiday Inn where they had a little convention hall or whatever to hold like 100 or 200 people. And then
right,
they feed them and give them drinks or everything. The purpose was, and then they invite all those pet shops in that are around Little Rock and that area and so forth. Now, that's just one, for instance. I did lots of these. I did never thought I'd become a public speaker. I always thought I was just going to be a scientist and invent things, But here I am up there in a suit with a microphone and explaining to them how to keep tropical fish alive in a pet store by the products that I had invented. But like I said, you can only keep 1 inch of fish per gallon of water. Also, most people don't know that in the tropical fish industry. So I went everywhere. I mean, Seattle, Maine. I mean, every state you named it. I went to London and all those places on their dime. But I really didn't care for it because I'm really not a suit and tie type of person, to be honest
right,
with you. I'm more, I hunt and I fish, and I wear nice clothes and things like that. But for me to be in a tie every day, that's just, that's not going to happen. I didn't know how to tie a tie until I was like 25 years old. A guy who's retired Air Force taught me down here in San Antonio, with my Texas father. Let's put it that way. But it I stayed with them and then I left them because I had all these ideas. I knew how to make. I was figuring out how to keep these things alive. But in the meantime, I'm working on the bass. I already had that done. I already had that accomplished because in '86, Ray Scott and I mean, when I was young, I never thought I was going to become friends with Ray Scott. I didn't know I was going to become friends with Johnny Morris or Paul Elias. You name him.
right,
I met, I just never thought Tom Mann, all those people. I never thought I'd ever meet these people. I've got all their autographs in my front office. I
right.
get I get a check from Johnny Morris every week because I get a purchase order from him for over 30 something years now. So I get his autograph on a check every Monday. So that's pretty good.
That's
But
good.
anyway, yeah, I know. And then we're friends. So we really are. And he uses my products. At least he used to when he fished. So, but the point of that is that I didn't realize that I was going to be able to publicly speak. Which, when you know what you're talking about, it's easy. If you don't know what you're talking about, you're making stuff up or lying. That's not so easy because then you got to remember all that stuff. Because I'm one of those few people that you meet that when you ask me a question, I'm going to give you the truth. And I
Yeah,
tell people some of the experiences I had. And I've had people go and say, like, we met you and everything. Like, and we walked away, and my wife and I said, "There's no way this guy, for instance, went to the Grammys back in 2017." And it was quite a story even why I went to this thing. And the next year they saw me in another restaurant, and they go, you don't remember us, do you? And I said, no. So we were sitting at a steakhouse beside you, and you just got back from Los Angeles, and you had gone to see the Grammys at the Los Angeles Conventions. I mean, at Staples Center. And I said, and he said, we got you guided in that direction, and you told the story verbatim, exactly what happened. I said, dude, when you tell the truth, you don't have to remember it. See,
Yeah.
and that's why my products, I know what they do. I know why they do it.
Yeah.
And I use a lot of over 150 different chemicals. I'm FDA regulated and everything, so I can get the stuff that I need to do it. That's why I know they work. And the
Yeah.
studies that have been done on them, I mean, independent studies. But that one year in 1986, with Doug Hannon and I, because Ray Scott, this was Ray Scott's idea, is we went to every BSS tournament. Toledo, Bend, we were in Missouri. We were that year. The classic was in Richmond, Virginia. What happened was we talked to all the anglers before each tournament and gave them a protocol that we had come up with using ice, the chemicals, and hydrogen peroxide and everything, which I'll get into here shortly. But it's a protocol to go. And
Yeah.
then what happened was at the end of it, Parks and Wildlife, instead of releasing the fish back in the lake, they maintained possession of them. Like the one in Missouri was kind of cool because they had these gigantic cages in that lake, and I can't remember which lake it was, but it was on the Arkansas Missouri border, and they kept those fish, and they would keep them from 4 to 6 weeks, and then they would assess delayed mortality.
Hmm.
We had zero until we got to Richmond, Virginia, and it was August, and it was hotter than heck, and they were trailering a long ways to the convention center,
Right.
and we but what they did was they took them to their ponds where they raised fish at their facilities. Okay, so and these things are all they're tapered, so when they drain it, the water comes out and you catch the fish.
Right.
It was like 497 fish caught in this tournament. And when they went and counted the fish, there was one missing. They didn't find a carcass or nothing. They just no, and it said, we don't know. A coon could have got it. A big, a predator bird or something could have got it. We don't know. Otherwise, it was 100%, live release with no fatalities. And that's when they were using our protocol. Now all those big tournaments are using these biologists that came out of these states that read books, and they just they take it they took everything that we were doing and changed it all, and that's why you're seeing delayed mortality now in so many tournaments, like you said, around your area.
Yeah. And and it's sad. I mean, because these tournaments will have, like, the big guys will have 150 boats in them, and after they get done, and I mean, we'll just start seeing fish just floating down the
Yep.
river, and it's just horrible. Um, and which, uh, and another thing is, like, I was fishing with a guy in a tournament, and he put some stuff into his live well, and he was saying that it's supposed to help uh, keep it alive and stuff like that. But that fish had more of like a slimy coat over the whole fish. It was more like it's almost it was like almost like a snot type feeling that when you grab the fish and stuff, like, you can feel it up underneath its the lower jaw and stuff like that. And so I felt down it, and it was all like it was just coated down it. And I was like, I told him, I said, man, don't ever use that again. I was like, that's not the stuff that you need to be using
I
because
know
it's not.
exactly what's in that, what you're talking about. What that one is when I just told you there's a lot of things that my products do besides just tranquilize. Okay, I mean, a whole bunch of them. Yeah, it kills for instance, the largemouth virus, largemouth bass virus. It actually kills the larval stage of zebra mussels. Okay, I'm
Right.
the only one that does that. And then, as far as the slime go, that's you need the slime on there. But but I'm producing. I'm taking the slime cells and having to produce that slime because that slime to them is like skin is to a human. If you cut
Right.
yourself or abrade yourself, you can get an infection. Well, that's their antibacterial property slime coating. That's essential. But what they're doing though is they're irritating the fish. I'm calming them down. They're pumping them up. And they're doing it with garlic. And if you can easily tell people who've lost their fish if they've used that product because I've seen it so many times, the gills are as white as Norman's hat right there. Okay,
Right.
I mean it's just white. It's supposed to be bright red. If you do what we suggest you do, and this is what we came up with. Okay, is I've not got all right. You got please release me, and then you've got catch and release. There's two reasons I got two different formulations here. Okay, this was this one here is the original one. You'll notice it's kind of a light blue. This one is real dark. Okay, but I'm not putting dyes in there just to make these things look pretty. Those are medicinal dyes that are actually doing something for you because the blue dyes in both of these products, if is used by paramedics. If you try to kill yourself in a garage with carbon monoxide poisoning and somebody finds you in time, calls 911, they'll come over there and they'll check this same thing in your body because what's happened is your blood cells, your hemoglobin, has now picked up carbon monoxide molecules instead of oxygen molecules. It's an antidote. So in the live well, this also serves the same purpose for the blood in the fish not to pick up other molecules that they don't want, like nitrites and things like that. So that being said, that's why everybody that competes with me, they make their color product the same color as mine, but they're using an FDC blue dye that goes in the food. It serves no purpose on a fish. So these are 100% active. I've always wondered, like, why would you buy a bottle of liquid and it only does one thing, this liquid product, it takes ammonia out of water. They claim a whole bunch of other stuff, but you're being swindled because they don't even have an answer for that. Because I've talked to them, and they get upset with me when I ask them the questions because they can't explain it because they're not even making it. It's private labeled for them. But anyway, why would you want to buy more water and add it to a live well when you already got a ton of water in there? Why don't you put something that's 100% active into it? So what we did, for instance, when we did in 1986, we talked, and also that this Bass Champs tournament down in Lake Falcon after BSS had that horrific kill off from their tournament, and they killed 10% of the brood stock in that lake with one tournament. With Bass Champs, we went back down there 2 weeks later, same temperature. The bass the fishing was on fire in Zapata, Texas, and so Bass Champs did not want that black eye. But they couldn't afford a black eye like that. So I wrote this protocol up. I'd send it to Doug Hannon. He looked at it. He didn't have to change anything. Same thing we've been doing anyway. But the thing is people say, especially biologists say, you can't do what you just said because it's going to kill the fish. And we go like, have you ever tried it? And they go like, well, that's what the book told me. I was like, but have you ever tried it? No. Yeah. Well, okay, that's a book. So anyway, what we did was we gave them a bottle of both of these. Catch and release. I'm having a hard time showing this. Catch and release and please release me. This one here is it does have an ammonia remover in it, but it has a whole lot of other things too besides. This one here is real blue, and the reason is it's highly impacted with antibiotics. I can't put the ammonia remover in with this because it's just not going to be compatible in that kind of intensity. Anyway, wrong word, but I think you know what I'm trying to say. It's a very intense product. So we gave there's like 300 boats in this tournament, and we gave them all out of my pocket a bottle of each. Gave them a bottle of foam off. I don't know if you've ever seen this or not. But have you ever seen foam on the top of the water? That is not good because 90% of the oxygen that's transferred in that tank occurs at the surface of the water. Okay, it doesn't matter how much you bubble it or whatever. That's what happens. That comes from the atmosphere. It comes from the atmosphere, and and water can only hold so many parts per million of oxygen. However, you can increase it by adding ice to the water. So we tell everybody. In my boat, I carry 60 pounds of ice. And when my son and I were fishing a tournament, I'll go back there first, and I'll get the live wells all set up. And he's running the trolling motor. It only takes me about 2 or 3 minutes. I get him set up, and then I take the trolling motor over. But also, I add this to the water, if you can read it. It's hydrogen peroxide. That's 3%. You buy it at any Walgreens or someplace like that. I don't go to Walmart, so I'm not a big fan of Walmart. But I go to, but I get this stuff. and his stuff is amazing. And if you look online, if you can remember this, my good friend Doug Hannon, we did some videos down on Lake Amistad, and we devoted one just to this. So it's going to be Sure Life Labs YouTube video, Doug Hannon, hydrogen peroxide. It takes him like 2.5 minutes to explain it. This is the biologist said you can't do this because it's going to burn their gills. You're adding 4 ounces of this, which is a half a cup, by the way, 16 gallons of Livewell water. Okay, so it's already a 3% solution. Now you're taking a 3% solution and adding it to 16 gallons. So you've gone at like another 400 times of diluting this stuff. But what you've done though is you've actually injected an entire load of oxygen into water in the form of H2O2. It's not oxygen, it's just got an extra oxygen molecule on it.
Right.
So as the fish breathes and sucks out an oxygen molecule, it's in an equilibrium stage. One of those H2O2 molecules converts to oxygen. So even if your aerators go out and everything like this will save your fish. If you have a bait store, and I've had this happen several times, it's amazing. I've been at Big Rock Sports Friends, one of my largest distributors, and the other ones, and they'll walk up to me and they say, we had when the hurricane came through, Louisiana, Mississippi, whatever. And I just got a load of bait in, and we lost all electricity. One guy said they had a major accident. They tore down his electrical pole in front of his bait shop, lost power, and he had just bought like all this bait to put in his water and to sell me. He said, I remembered you telling me about hydrogen peroxide. So I went to the local Walgreens, like you suggested, or whatever he went. He said, I bought up a bunch of bottles. I wasn't real sure about the dosage, but I kind of remembered a little bit. It wasn't a lot. He said, I glug, 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 glug. And he said, the next day, the power finally came back on. They didn't lose any fish. It applies to live wells, too. And it applies to live wells in salt water also, if you're doing a redfish tournament, for instance. That's one thing about it, too, is my products work in salt water. The other ones don't.
Mm-mm.
At least they don't do a very good job of it, I can tell you that. But anyway, so that's one thing. And then I got this. My company logo is a life preserver.
Yeah.
And it just so happened at Lowe's, I get this is a floating thermometer. Okay, and got an on-off switch here somewhere. Let's see where that. Here we go. So it gives me a temperature, and it's floating.
Right.
And I got one for each live well. So I know what the temperature is. So if the water is like 75 degrees, I'll drop it to 60. That's 15 degrees. If it's 80, I'll drop it down to 65. And you won't believe what your fish will look like if you use the catch and release or the police release. You can use either one. The foam off to keep the foam off the water. And hydrogen peroxide, which is this costs 99 cents, by the way. I just bought a fresh bottle. So 99 cents for this bottle. And it's got 16 ounces in it. So that's 4 treatments for me right there with my live wells. My live wells are 16 gallons. And then ice. Lots of ice. But you need a thermometer so you know where when you hit that target stage. And then maintain it. And if you use the catch and release, you don't have to do any water changes all day long because it's taking the ammonia out too. When they see when people see the fish we're weighing in, yeah, they're slimy with their own slime though.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, their gills are bright red, and it's just they live. We at that tournament at Amistad, at Falcon, we stayed an extra 3 days, including there was game wardens there. There was bait shop owners there, or tackle store owners. There's just general people that live there because that's their livelihood, is the people that go to that lake to fish. Because that's not a very big town if you've ever been to Zapata. But they were pissed when they lost all those fish for VSS.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I mean, because
I was going to say, now, Tony, I've personally used your product pretty much my whole fishing career, and plus I've sold the product when I had my own bait shop. That you're the only product I sold, but my most frequently asked question that I would get is how much you use. What is the ratio for a tournament angler in the live well? Whether you just put a capful in, or do you have to repeat a dosage throughout the day? So how much should a tournament angler actually put in his live well when he puts a little bit of please release me, or the additive in?
Okay. I own the company, so I'm pretty generous with myself. This is 1 teaspoon. The recommended dose is 1 teaspoon per 10 gallons of water, right? This cap is basically about a tablespoon. Now, I don't even really measure it because I just take it like this and dump it in there. You can't really overdose. The problem is you can underdose. You could actually, believe it or not, I've done it many times, and you can do it with bait fish also. You can tranquilize them to the point where they actually roll over. So they're on their backs, and their stomachs looking up at you, but their gills are barely going like this. I mean, they're out of it. They're in an emergency room situation. And if you ever notice, when even human, you go to an emergency room, you ever notice how cold it is in there to keep down,
Yeah.
disease pathogens? It's the same thing with a live well to keep it cold. But yeah, I put extra in it. But then again, I don't expect you to. 1 teaspoon is sufficient. But I add extra, but I also make it so I like it like that. That's the way I like it.
Yeah, no, I
So
used to use a cap. I used to use the cap. Basically, as my
yeah,
measure, I'd actually put it in the cap that screws on the top. I'd fill the cap up, and that kind of was my measuring device.
okay. Now you asked me about adding more. I don't put it on. I put it on recirc, and I never ever bring in water from the outside again during the day because I keep adding ice to it to cool the. You got 3 or 4 hours later, you have to add some more ice to bring it back down to whatever target range you're looking at. Well, then that's when I'm going to add more of the additives,
Right, right.
to the water because now it's been diluted
Yeah.
and gone out the sides of the boat. And the thing about it is, all my products take out chlorine. And so you can use city ice because it's got chlorine in everything. There's one company out there that keeps giving out false information, and it's really frustrating because they're being swindled. I'm telling you about these people. First of all, they put this device on a boat and making you spend extra hundreds and hundreds of dollars for nothing because it doesn't produce enough oxygen to sustain a limit of fish. We've already checked that. Parks and Wildlife here in Texas has even checked that. But that comes on as an added, but to add it to your $90,000 bass boat, and you don't need it. And the aerators were just fine; you didn't need this thing. But then they go like, well, you can't use Tony Gergely's product with our product because it's going to turn it into a chlorine gas. My products take out chlorine, but they won't bother to tell people that. And so it's such misinformation, and it's frustrating. I'm really passionate about this. When I lost those fish in Florida when I was a kid, I was determined to figure out how to keep them alive. And I've done that. And I'm not bragging or anything. It's been proven through other people's studies and everything. Even Auburn University, for instance, has done it. And when they did this for BSS, I actually have the copies and everything. And Ray Scott wrote this great editorial in the front of the magazine. And it talks about what we accomplished that 1 year back, when all those tournaments and proven that this system works. Okay. And, but they got away from it. That's what I'm saying. They're not doing that anymore. They're just adding salt to they're using salt, and they claim you can't put ice in the water. It's going to kill them because you can't change the temperature on a fish that fast. Well, if you think about it, like at Falcon, where Bass Chance released all those fish during that tournament, okay, that thing goes from the ramp and then right out the creek channel's not far. It's 80 feet deep out there. Those fish go down to a deeper zone where it's cooler automatically. You're stood in a river. Your feet are cold sometimes, and you're hot up. I mean, and people never take that into account. They think the whole lake's the same damn temperature. It's not, and it works. It really works.
Yeah. Now, you talk about putting ice in the water. Now, what I used to do, and this is kind of a little bit on a different subject, but when I used to actually put freeze water bottles, and because I was always told with ice, there's gonna, if you get it out of faucet, there's gonna be chlorine in your water typically.
Well, that's why my products take out chlorine.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't do the frozen bottle. And a lot of people do it. I know that. I just don't do that.
So
I just drink ice.
I was asking is that kind of like a little bit of a myth that people's told about chlorine in water? Because I know that's what I was told. So I used to actually freeze water bottles because I was always, don't just put ice in because it puts chlorine in the water. So you're saying
Go Both those products I just showed you, these right here, and now, and even when you used, the please release me and the catch
Right.
and release and all that.
Yeah.
Again, it's a little confused here, but anyway, I haven't figured that part out yet. It's all reversed. Um, that the better bait that you use on your minnow tanks, it takes out chlorine.
Right.
But the thing is, my products also take out chloramines, which that's a combination of chlorine and ammonia, by the way.
I
So,
got
I mean, I figured all this stuff out. These are all the things you got to take into to thought. For instance, in a bait shop, for instance, you got copper pipes and things like that with water running through it, right?
Right.
Well, heavy metals are very toxic to fish, and so if you've got a problem with that, and you pull in 25 pounds of bait that you plan on selling, and you've got heavy metals in the water, your fish are going to die. So I've got a chelating agent in all my products, which is a Greek for claw. So it actually grabs the metal, like copper, for instance, and latches onto it, and it's not available to the fish anymore. Same thing in Florida, like on the Harris chain of lakes, for instance, they got all those great orange groves around there. Well, they put a lot of pesticides and they use copper and stuff like that and herbicides to grow those orange trees. When it rains, all that stuff ends up in the lake. And now you got a live well with stuff that they're helping orange trees, but it's not good for fish. So I've got all these other compounds that I utilize to get all that out of the water. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of things to take into account. Not just the electrolytes either, by the way, to replenish it for the stress that they've been under.
Right.
It's I I was in California and I was at LAX and I had gone up to Lake Casitas or something like that, and they were trying to close the lake down because of zebra mussels. Okay, and all those people in that area make their money off that lake. And I went and talked to like 300 people, and there was a couple of actually major famous actresses there too that live in that town. I forget the name of that town, but it's really beautiful. And I ended up at a Chili's of everything at LAX, waiting to get out of come back home to San Antonio. And this guy was German, and he was from Germany, but he's at a university over there where Tackle Warehouse is located at. I can never say the name of that town, but you know what I'm talking about, south of
Right.
San Francisco. And I was talking to him, and he said, as a science, he represents the EPA in front of Congress, and he goes and speaks to them on about different subjects or whatever, and he's on his way again to go talk to Congress about something that the EPA wanted him to talk about because he's such a great chemist. I mean, this guy's a genius. I'm sitting there talking to him, and he asked me what I was doing there, and I was telling him about what we're talking about right now, my formulations. And I mentioned to him, I said, there's one company that's trying to compete against me, and they can only do it if they do something opposite, is that jack up the fish. And I said, they're putting garlic in their product. And he looks at me and he goes, they're doing what? I said, they're putting garlic in a live well with bass. They'll make them jump around so that the bass fishermen think it's a good thing. But it's not a good thing because I've seen the results of it. These fish die and everything. He said, let me tell you something, Tony. We did an experiment down in Houston, Texas, and Houston's got a lot of mosquitoes. So we knew that garlic, what it did was, he said, we went and sprayed all these ditches and everything like that where all these mosquito problems were with a garlic solution, which is what this stuff is that we're talking about.
Right.
He said, you're not going to believe it. He said, once we did that, nothing lived. He said there was no tadpoles, there was no frogs, mosquitoes were gone. It just killed everything that was in the water. So I came back here and I set up some aquariums myself outdoors. So it's exposed to the elements. It's got ambient temperature, whatever it was. And remember, small. I only set up 10-gallon tanks, and I set them all up. And I put my products in them, and then I put that other products in them. I let them sit there for months. Within a couple of days or maybe a week, the products that went to my tanks, I remember the ones I created, the water started turning green with algae. And then eventually mosquito larvae showed up. And then there was some other things that were growing in it too. In other words, mine breaks down. It doesn't stay in the environment.
Right.
And now things are living again. That other tank, it stayed as clear as this bottle of Fiji water. It never ever got green, and
Man.
it proved to me what he told me at the LAX airport.
Yeah. Well, we got a
That was
couple
a
questions for you. Um, Michael Lindell says, awesome product, awesome story. Shout out from Florida Everglades. And he also says, in the swamp and Okeechobee is shallow water temps can be in the high 80s. What temperature should we drop it down to?
I go anywhere from 10 to 15 degrees. I'm telling you, you can do that.
Yeah,
That's why you need a floating thermometer that you can look at back there. And I found this at Lowe's. If you go into a Lowe's or even probably Home Depot, they have a garden section out back, and they have um, pond stuff for outdoor koi ponds. I
right,
just picked these things up, and I've been using them for decades now. I was
right.
with Doug Hannon over there by Lake Fork one time. I didn't have any thermometers with me. We were doing an experiment with my tranquilizers and everything at a Bass Champs. I think it was what was it? That Berkeley tournament they put on every year. And we stopped off in, and I went to a Lowe's, and I was gone there about 15 minutes. And he was in the front seat, and I had to go get a floating thermometer. And I said, "I'm sorry, Doug. I'm a Florida Gator, so that's where I graduated from." And I said I had a little problem picking out which thermometer because I had a choice between this life preserver and there was one with a floating gator. And he goes, "You didn't have a choice." he, didn't, he looked at it, you didn't have a choice. He was right. But
Yeah,
yeah, about 10 to 15 degrees. Don't and you won't be surprised. As long as you use the other chemicals, like I said, the foam
yeah.
off, and then one of the two. I keep both of these in there, by the way, and then a floating thermometer and then hydrogen peroxide for sure. And it doesn't take long to set all that up.
Yeah. Couple more questions. Um, my dad asked if you keep part of your catch to consume, are those fish uh, that you can eat, or does it harm the fish? Can you?
I've had that question asked me for since the 1980s. These are all FDA regulated. They're all these are water conditioners. It's not actually infecting the fish internally. It's like that's why when you tranquilize them, you put them back in the water. 45 seconds later, they revive themselves. It's really
That's
cool.
awesome.
So the answer is yes, it's fine.
Nick asked, "Does this just work on bass, and or will it work on any kind of fish?" He says, "I'm a cat fisherman."
Yes, it will work on catfish. I get that question. It works on walleye. It works on redfish. All of them. Whichever one you're trying to tournament fish with.
Right.
Now, if you want to keep say for instance, you want to keep like brim or things like that alive for live bait fishing, use our finer shiner. So that was meant for hard scale fish like the wild shiners they catch in Florida and everything.
Right.
So all our products, all these fish act differently in captivity. That's the thing about it. Like shad, I don't know if you know, but I make this product called Shad Keeper. I invented that back in the early 1990s. You wouldn't believe how much of this stuff I sell because it works, and it's in Bass Pro Shop's catalog and everything. But those fish act totally different. It's almost like if you look at a shad, it's going to die, or croakers, for instance, along the coast.
Yeah.
Now, the reason I have that product was like 1993. I went to a show in Rockport, Texas, and these guys came up to me and said, "Look, these things are costing us 50 cents a piece. You've got all these other great products. You think you can come up with something for us?" Shad Croaker Saver sells like crazy, and that was a real complicated product to come out with, but it works.
Right.
It saves them a lot of money.
Yeah. Now, how can how can people find your product? Do um, are they besides that, like Bass Pro, because some people might not have a Bass Pro locally to them, can they can go to your website, correct, and order?
No, they can't order off the website, but we don't
Okay.
sell direct. We only sell to our distributors, and I've got 350 distributors. So I mean, there's some small
Okay.
ones, and there's some medium ones, and there's some large ones. So we sell into Canada, we sell into Europe, we sell into Mexico. But these people they're buying pallet loads, and then they're breaking it down and selling it to the individual mom and pop bait stores. So I have
Right.
no clue who they are, but there's on any given day there's 15,000 bait stores operating in the United States of America. By the way,
Right.
There's a ton of tackle shops, mom and pop tackle
yeah,
shops that carry the product. When I worked at Lake Placid Marine and Lake Placid for a long time, I was there for like 16 years running their showroom. That's the only product we sold, and we got our product from a couple of different distributors
yeah.
at the
Right.
time. But you can find them all over the place.
If you go online though, right now, I've got he's actually a friend of mine I've known now for about 30 something years, and he was my taxidermist. And he started his own distribution company. And so he's buying pallet loads of product from me, and then but he's online, and I think it's called Fishing Products of Texas or something like that. If they call my factory, I can give them the number. But he's got every single product that we manufacture, and he has free shipping.
Yeah.
So
Right.
Now, how about Tackle Warehouse? Does Tackle Warehouse have your
yep,
product? Okay, so if you're watching this and you don't have a tackle shop in your area, check your mom and pop tackle shops first. We
Yeah.
highly recommend promote your local mom and pop shops.
I will tell you this, if you don't mind me saying this. I was approached by Walmart, okay, back in like 2008 or something like that, out in Vegas at the ICAST show. And I wasn't in the booth yet, but my friend JP Greason that owns the Texas Fishing Forum. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not, but he was in the booth for me, turning the lights on. I was running a little late. I was over at the Bellagio, and he called me up and said, "You need to get over here fast." He said because Walmart's in here and they want to pick up your line. Well, I got excited, so I went all the way over there, and the guy told me he was a regional manager down in the southeast part of the United States of America for Walmart, but he got moved up to Bentonville. Now he's the national um, product selector for whatever for the fishing industry. And he says, "I know your products work." And he said, "Tell me what products I should put in the stores. I'm not going to sell you something that doesn't work, because I'll just
Right.
eventually end up getting it back." So I told him like 6 or 7 of them or whatever, and then we got together and everything. And this is one time where my ex-wife actually made sense. Okay, let's put it that way. She showed up late and everything, and I'm all excited. And she looked at me and she said, basically, "Are you stupid?" I'm like, "I know I'm not stupid, but I'm excited." She said, she wasn't here when I started this now. She came in and later on, obviously, as a wife. She goes, how many bait stores are there? I said, about 15,000. He said, "You've got all these distributors like Big Rock Sports and Sportsman Supply and Pitman Creek and
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, I've got every one of them." And she says, "And you're going to go and let them buy your product, and they're going to undercut the product. And that means all these years, these 15,000 bait stores that were selling your products, that were supporting you, you're going to go and, basically stab them in the back." And I said, he said, "If you lose one bait store, you're never going to know it. But if you lose a Walmart, you're definitely going to know it." And
Right.
I decided to not to do that. But I do have some distributors that do sell to them,
Yeah.
but that's their deal, not my deal. I
Right.
mean, I sell to that distributor. If they want to put it in there, hey, more power to them. They're
Yeah.
still paying the same price that
Oh, yeah.
everybody else is paying.
But and
Right.
that's what I was saying too. When all of our viewers, when you're getting ready to go out and I will tell you, because I've used the product, I know it works. I rely on the product. Check with your local bait and tackle shops. If they
Yeah,
don't carry it, then you
they
can get
can.
it. Tackle Warehouse.
Those
Bass.
those bait shops can order it from their
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
distributor.
Oh yeah, and most bait shops actually use Big Rock Sports. They use now we
Pitman.
used to use two distributors, and I'll throw a good buddy
Yeah,
of mine. Uh, uh,
exactly.
uh, we became friends
I, I,
over
s-
with Lee
I,
Lewis. He was
I
one of
sell
my
dealers. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And Al Throw, owner of Lee Lures, a little plug to Mr. Al there, became a good friend of mine, but I used to buy tons of the product from Al for Lake Placid Marine. And then
Yeah.
actually, when we had Heartland Outdoor World, which I was a co owner in, so sold a lot of the product. But yeah, mom and pop, and then Bass Pro Shop, Tackle Warehouse. And like I say,
I'm fit.
if a
I'm,
local
Go
tackle
ahead.
shop does not have it, most local tackle shops actually use a distributor that where they get their product that they could special order it if they don't happen to
Yeah.
carry it as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to. Yeah. I love Tabasco sauce. Okay. I eat a lot of Tabasco sauce. Anybody that knows me knows that about me. But I'm not going to call up Tabasco and ask them to send me one bottle of Tabasco to my house. They're
Right.
selling it to Cisco, and Cisco or whatever is distributing it to the restaurants and everything. But and that's the way it works in the fishing industry too. I'm not set up to send one bottle to one person. We'd never get anything done if we had to do it like
Oh yeah,
that.
Right.
exactly.
Right.
So
Now, I seen a video of where y'all had, I guess it's like 100-gallon tank or tub type deal that y'all had an 8-pounder in, and it had no aerators or anything, something like that. And you just put your product in it, like what you said, and some ice and some peroxide in it. And I think it said like 5 hours or something like that. The video that I seen that had it, that they had that bass. It was just the bass was just in there by itself, but it had your product in it, and they kept it in there for like 5 hours, and they didn't see any kind of stress or anything like that showing on the fish with your product without any kind of aeration going into it.
I
And
never
that
seen that
was,
video.
you hadn't seen it.
I didn't do that. Somebody else did that. I didn't do it. But I'm glad
Oh,
I'm glad they did it.
I don't know. I, I I don't know. I'll send you. I'll find it again, and I'll send you the link out to
Okay.
your cell phone. But it
We've
was
got
a
some.
very,
Well, if
it
you're
was
mentioning
very interesting,
videos,
huh?
if you before we ran out of time on this one thing, that protocol I just told you about the ice and the peroxide and so forth. If you just go to a YouTube video, Sure Life Laboratories fish care, and it's about an 8-minute video, and I go through everything and describe the differences. It was done down at Lake Amistad. I brought Doug Hannon out. We spent a whole week down there filming, and it was they're quite informative. And they're quite informative. They're YouTube videos. I don't have them on my website right now, but I'm fixing to redo my website, and they will be up there shortly. But right now we're in the middle of redoing all of that. I did want to tell you one other thing that has nothing to do with this, though. I don't know if you knew this. I've got two companies. Have you ever seen these?
Yes, that was another thing I was wanting to talk to you about.
But
Um,
that's Warm Glow,
yeah,
and I invented that back in 2001. I was going on a black bear hunting trip in Alaska. I kept killing these worms and killing these worms because I had a customer up in Cincinnati, Ohio, that kept calling me up and said, "Man, can you turn night crawlers to chartreuse?" And I kept killing them and killing them and killing them and killing them. And then I came up with and I was trying to do it chemically. Then I came up with the idea that wait a minute, they're 90% water. I need to feed it to them. And so I got these cups, and I did some different parts per million concentrations and everything, and dosed them up and left for a week. Got myself a black bear. I'm at Prince of Wales Island. Came back, and when I looked in there, every one of them was glowing. It's just certain ones were glowing more than others, depending on how concentrated it was. I waited 3 months. They never lost their color. Once they did lose their color, I fed them again. They get real fat, they get real active, and they glow like this. And that's when I got a U.S. and Canadian patent, by the way. And we sell the hell out of this. And what happened though, I did this one thing with North American Fishermen out of Minnesota, which is no longer around, by the way. And they put in the magazine that we would be willing to send out 500 free samples to the first 500 people that want to try this product. So obviously, I had to take a lot of boxes to the post office. But what happened was this: is that and that's what's so fun about this industry. I got back 3 letters, and they almost like were identical. You could almost see the teardrops on them because it was from 3 grandfathers. Now, all the other ones were cool too, but this one really got me. Is that thank you, and Mr. Gergely. They didn't have to call me that for inventing worm glue. She said, he goes, I've got some granddaughters, and I've always wanted to take them fishing, but they wouldn't go with me because he said the worms are yucky. So I got some. You sent me this free bottle, and I dosed them up, and I went. And the little girls looked at it and said, "Oh, Grandpa, those worms are pretty. Let's go fishing." He said, "Thank you for giving me a fishing buddy," and that means more to me than a lot of things, more than money. Because when people tell you stuff like that, and you have a great experience and feeling and being appreciative, and we're all Americans, we're all striving to make something better all the time. That really just. I have those letters up from on my office frame, by the way. And like I said, you can actually see tear marks on when they're crying. And I just thought that was cool. It
Yeah.
has nothing to do with bass fishing, but they catch the heck out of fish.
What we'll do, guys, the here next time that Norman and I get out on the boat together, we will make a video and post it on our social media about us using the "Please Release Me." I think that that's the one that Norman has. I think that's what you have in your boat, isn't it?
That's what
Yeah.
I use.
Um, and so we'll take a video of us using that in the live well, just to kind of show the process that we use while we're using it. Um, and so we'll try to get that done here in the next couple times that Norman and I are out.
Yeah.
And so, but if you're here locally, we go holler at Kim at Jack's Bait and Tackle or Tank at Fishtails. They I think Tank may carry it. I think because I know he does have some a little area about fish care.
Yes.
But if they do not, and Talking Tackle, if they do not, they're going to be able to order it. It is legit a game changer to help be able because we want to be able to keep these fish alive because we live in a great part of the country to where we do have these great fisheries, and if all these tournaments that we do have going out on Chickamauga and Nickajack on a weekly basis, that we do have to take care of these fish or we won't have the great fisheries that we do have. So let's take some this advice that Mr. Tony has given us, and let's put it to use, and let's save some fish and be able to enjoy the fisheries that we have for a long, long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Tony,
Appreciate that, man.
appreciate
no
you,
problem.
man.
Um,
A world of information. Loved having you, dude. And it was inspiring to listen to you and
yeah,
how where the product came from. And truly an honor to have you on, man. And a lot of information that I hope a lot of our viewers is going to really take and use.
yeah.
Thank you so much. I
So,
appreciate this.
and if you can hold on a second after we get done, Mr. Tony, we want to chit chat with you for a second
Okay.
afterwards. But guys, we deeply appreciate it. We had over 1,000 viewers watching this tonight, um, and we hope that you got something out of it. We deeply appreciate you coming on here, Mr. Tony, about it and talking to us. It is very informative for us, or especially for Norman and I, to be able to hear you talk about what the product does, and uh, you never gave the impression that you were just kind of just saying stuff like how what we were talking about earlier. You just it just kind of like it was just you just threw up the what it does and stuff like that. So you just we know that you know your product,
Thank you.
um, and that just like what you're saying, if it's the truth, it's hard to. I mean, it's not that easy or not that hard to be able to say it over and over if it's the truth,
Yeah.
and that we deeply appreciate it, and we're so glad that you came on here. We've been wanting to have you on here because we're so big in our area trying to be about fish care and stuff like that, that we wanted you on to where people can also see how they can take care of the fish in the boat as well as cleaning up the water.
I'm a big believer in one thing. It's this, like, if you put your faith and trust in God and Jesus,
Yeah,
you know, those forks in the road, you'll eventually take the right ones. And
yeah,
I actually did. Like I said, I'm not a doctor, and I'm so happy I'm not. But I'm so passionate about everything we talked about tonight, and I
right.
just love talking about it with people
And we
like
can
y'all.
tell, you can tell by just talking to you how passionate you are about the product and what you do, that it really shows. And so, um,
Let me ask you one more question
yes, sir.
before we get. You ever seen the picture of the Last Supper?
Yes, sir.
You know what Jesus said? You know what was the last thing Jesus said at the Last Supper?
The last thing he said.
The last thing he said at the Last Supper, the painting.
I know. Uh, I'm going to feel so bad about this.
Everybody that wants to get in on the picture, get on this side of the table. Did you get it? Did you
That's
get
like,
it?
yeah, we that's like, because we do, and Norman, before we let him go, we want to ask him the question that we ask everybody that comes on. Um, but we we were talking to Clay Dyer, and he said that he'd want to fish with have Jesus on the boat, and I said I don't know if I'd want to have him on the boat. I said because he would probably look at me and say, "Hey, stupid, fish on the other side." So, but yeah, guys, Norman will take the last question away, and we'll get off of here, brother.
And Tony, you know what? We have one question we ask at the very end of every podcast to all of our viewers. But if you were to have one person to fish with for a day, now this person could be still with us, or he or she could be passed. Who would that person be that you would want to fish with for the day, and why?
Oh, it definitely it Doug Hannon would be close, you know, and that's who I really want to be. But you know who I really want to be would be my dad, and I'll tell you why. So my dad and mother were in Florida. They were very old when they had me. I've got a sister that's 90, if that tells you anything.
Mm,
But my dad was the first one born in the United States of America. He became a superintendent for United States Steel, and he ran 14 coal mines in West Virginia. During World War II, I researched this. 75% of the coal that was produced for World War II for us to build tanks, bombs, aircraft, ships, whatever, came out of those 14 coal mines. And my dad was a superintendent for United States Steel, and
that's
he only
awesome.
went to the eighth grade. I had so many questions when I was fishing with him. I didn't ask because I was too young. But if I could go back in, I would have so much. I'm like, what was it like during the Great Depression? What was it like during
Yeah,
World War II? I mean, Doug and I would definitely, but my dad for sure.
yeah,
Awesome, man.
yeah. That's like with me. Um, like I would want to have my grandfather on the boat, just for the same that he kind of had the same backstory. Like he only went through the seventh grade. Smartest man that I ever knew. He would read and read and read. He was the vice president of Genesco Shoe Company, and um, he flew a B-24 in World War II and stuff like that. But just to be able to talk to him and just to like get the knowledge
Mm-hmm.
out of the like the older generations that um and you take that for granted when you're a kid, but then when you get older you're like, man, I wished I could have asked this,
Oh
or
yeah.
could have went and done this with them or something like that.
Remember that? Like I think they even rationed shoes back then, like one pair a year or something like
Right,
that. I
yeah,
would love to have asked them questions like, well, "What was that like?" You know,
yeah,
or how much sugar and coffee and everything you get.
Yeah.
right,
I don't know.
yeah, just don't ask what they paid for a price of gas, because nowadays that'll be but but guys, we deeply appreciate you coming on here,
Thank you.
everybody. and I know I got to a few of the questions. Some of the questions I did not get to because we just wanted Tony just to kind of just talk and just give us the information about the product and what it does and how it helps the fish and stuff. So if I did not read a question of yours, and I'm sorry, but we do appreciate you coming on and watching. Um, so make sure that again that you go to Deck Talk Podcast, hit that subscribe button, and real quick, we have got it on every platform. We've got 10 episodes up, and I've got as much as I can get up right now for this month. November 2nd, I'll get probably another 10 more up, but it's on every platform except for Apple. We're in the process of talking back and forth with Apple to get it ready to be on Apple. So, guys, make sure you go listen to us. You can, if you got a long drive, nothing better than listen to some two flunkies talk to some pro about some fishing. So,
Check
so
out our website too, decktalkpodcast.buzzsprout.com. And if you go to the website, it's easy access to get to all the podcasting platforms as well when you're in your vehicle.
exactly. So, guys, again, we thank you for coming on and hope you live the passion and have a blessed day.
See you on the water.